Hello, everybody. Welcome. As you are tuning in, I'm going to take a sip of coffee. Welcome to, I believe, the third coffee club of 2022. In today's coffee club, as I mentioned in the event post in the Insider Circle, we're going to be talking about practice. Unfortunately, I just got 2 messages from a few people who were going to attend, and they both had COVID. So to those of you recovering from COVID, I send you strength and a speedy recovery. And I hope everybody is safe. We are living in such a strange time where we are coming out of a pandemic and at the brink of a big global conflict that can be felt. Hopefully not physically, as war, in my opinion, and violence is not the way. Anyways, practice. I'm feeling a little heavy today. I got to tell you, I'm feeling a little heavy, and at the same time, I'm feeling ready. So, with that being said, welcome to coffee club that may start on my end a little heavy, but lead to feeling lighter and clear. And I'll tell you why I'm feeling a little heavy. I've started to process a lot of what has been happening over the last 2 years. And I'm not necessarily going to go into detail into what I've been processing, but I've been processing a lot of what has been happening. And now, as we enter a new stage of this big global transition that we're going through, I am preparing myself for what is to come. And for what is to come, I don't know what that is. And thus, I am faced with the unknown. And when I say I think something like this is something that could resonate with all of you. And what I would like to do is something that I've been really practicing, is finding an anchor, a foundation, a place to ground myself that is allowing me to navigate the unknown with some certainty, some clarity, and that bringing me some peace. In addition to that, I have my grandson over, and he had a little bit of a rough night, so I have not slept that much. So if I'm coming in a little delirious or a little bit more far out there than I usually am, please don't forgive me, but just know where I'm coming from. So yeah, we're going to be talking about practice, and I want to hear where you are in your practice and your thinking around practice. And before we dive into this, I would love to give you a chance to speak. I know some of you are in your car. Some of you may not be able to speak right now on camera, but if you are, I would love to give you a chance to just share how you're doing, what's coming up for you, and how you're feeling. So the floor is yours. Whoever wants to share, you can raise your hand or just unmute yourself. Completely up to you.
I'll go first.
Yeah. Hello. Surprise, surprise.
Seems like forever since I've been in a coffee club.
I know. I'm so
missing
glad you're
one.
here.
I know. So glad to be here. I'm doing good. Practice. Everything is good. It's this year has gotten a lot of momentum for me, and with a few setbacks. You know, that infamous picture of a success, like, that Ray Dalio has of, the hills, but it keeps going up in the long run. And so that's kind of where I am with 2022 so far.
Yeah, I hear you. Peaks and valleys, but with an upward trend.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I hear that.
And the practice is keeping me grounded. All of my different practices.
What is one practice that keeps you grounded, Maya?
I would say the one more than anything is my journaling.
Yeah, so writing helps.
No matter what. Yeah, there were 4 days that I had to do without it when we had our big event 2 weeks ago. And there was just like not 1 second to be able to, and it was almost, that sensation you get when not working out for a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you get that craving and your body just needs it to have that release, to have that stimulus. And so,
Yeah. Itching.
yeah,
Itching.
yeah, itching.
Well, thank you for sharing. If
Gladly.
anybody else has the desire to share how they're feeling, please jump in, as Coffee Club is meant to be an engaging and live gathering of the minds. Feel free to unmute yourself and share. Madalena?
Hello. Yeah, I'll go. Well. This is a bit. I must say, I'm a bit heavy too, because I feel far too close to all the global conflict we are living. And although I'm not really a fan of watching the news, it's quite impossible to avoid them these days, and it's sometimes a bit and it's quite unsettling anyways. It's difficult to, I don't think it's the best strategy would be to try to ignore it, but sometimes it's just too much. And we spend all the hour, not spend our day around it, but quite a lot. We hear, I think, too much about it, and sometimes not really the I would say the clearest way. So it's and that is very sometimes frightening.
Mm-hmm.
So besides that, I'm trying to although I think it's not really possible, I'm trying to keep my life going through my life more or less the same way, not ignoring it. I know it's happening, but I realize it influences the way you think about, when you think about something or a project that you are doing. Sometimes it's I find myself thinking, well, would it now be worth it?
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit, it's my understanding at the moment.
You said something very powerful there, Madalena, that I would like to just reflect back to the group. And if I misheard this, please correct me. But what I heard is that at the moment, you also feel a little heavy. You feel unsettled. There's a lot of uncertainty. The conflict that we're seeing, although right now it seems to be concentrated and focused in Ukraine, is clearly going beyond that in some shape or form. And where it's going to go, we don't necessarily know. But that uncertainty and the maybe even not need to be up to date, but the addiction that maybe the news outlets or even social media posts around the conflict produces is also one that can throw you off balance, that just adds more juice and more fuel to the fire of uncertainty. And with that, you being able to have your practice is wonderful, but maybe what is coming up for you is something that I've also experienced, and I assume everybody here to some degree has experienced, is that it seems insignificant. So let's say you're practicing gymnastics and you're working on a forward roll. You're like, who cares about a forward roll when we're in a situation like this? Who cares about my little personal practice when there are bigger things happening in the world? And that's something that can be very disconcerting. It can throw you off. It can confuse you to the point of devaluing who you are in this world and what you do. Is that what you were kind of alluding to, that there's a sense of insignificance almost in your practice, although you're trying to keep them up?
Yeah. Yes, it's that. Yes, because it seems that it almost seems that it doesn't matter what you do, because of this such major event that, although, as you say, is for the moment still concentrated in Ukraine, it's beyond that. I think it's, well, it affects everything. We already feel it in our daily lives. If you so the simple thing of going to fill your how do you say, to your car, for example.
tank, yeah, your fuel tank.
Yeah, it was something that we felt immediately. So yeah, and we feel in other things, like everything is getting more expensive, and yeah, and so it's kind of difficult to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very powerful words, and it is very challenging to deal with it. And there's no words that can explain what you may be feeling inside, but just your ability to want to share, like you're sharing right now, is, I think, part of that which allows you, is going to allow us to return to our practice in a way where we find it significant and anchoring throughout this time that we're currently navigating. So if there's somebody here that doesn't feel heavy like maybe Madalena and I feel, and feels a little lighter, and would like to share on a lighter note what their practices are and what their daily life has been feeling like, and how they're doing today, feel free to jump in. You don't have to feel the same way that other people do to be able to participate. I just want to make sure that everybody is clear on that. J Soul.
Hey, Carl and everybody, Coffee Clubbians. Can I share my testimony?
Yeah, please. And drive safe there.
Oh, for sure. It looks like I'm driving, guys, but in fact, this is what I do to actually build confidence to speak in front of people. I'm actually stationary right now, so don't mind the steering wheel setting here. But yeah, so personal practice. I'm a B-boy, as you know, Carl, and it's an exciting time right now for the culture. With the Olympics coming up in 2024, it being introduced a couple of years ago. And this year, yeah, they're doing all the qualifiers for that. So I am a business owner as well. So I'm conflicting with that. Being 37 and 27 years into the game of breakdancing, I am moving better than ever. And my body and my mind and everything is so in tune right now, better than it's ever been. And yeah, to know that it's coming up, and I only have time to practice like once a week, if that, you know, that's something that kind of sits heavy with me. But I am focused on my vision and building, you know, this training platform with Breaking and Movement Foundation, of course, inspired by you and your book. But yeah, that's as far as practice and yeah, the topic of this morning. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Little excited, little bummed, but overall excited about what's going down.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I think for those who don't know, let's see, J Soul, I'm just gonna mute you because I'm getting there we go. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing first and foremost. For those who don't know, the Olympic Committee, after having the Junior Olympics being held in South America, I believe it was, featured breaking in the Olympics, in the Youth Olympics, and the Junior Olympics 2 years ago. I think it was maybe 3 years ago now, 2.5 years ago, whenever it was. And they said, okay, this sport, which is a dance and an art, but this sport will be included in Paris 2024. So the Olympic Committee has said, welcome dancers into the biggest event in sports. And now the breaking community around the world is starting to prepare, organize themselves, creating these governing bodies that are supporting the breakdancers who want to be on the path to going to the Olympics. And it's a very exciting time because this is the first time in history, and there's only one first, and the first is going to be in 2024. And what is interesting, especially for the United States right now, I happen to be loosely involved in what is happening on the forefront of prepping the coaching team that is going to be working with the U.S. representatives and some of the breakers that are going to be potentially representing at the Olympics in 2024. They're working on creating all the systems and putting everything into place. So what's really happening is that it's like a government is being created. And for the first time, a group of people are faced with the challenge to establish what the principles and values are going to be, and how are they going to do this in a way that not only supports their national community, meaning the U.S. community of breakers, but also globally. And something that adds a little pressure to the U.S. breakers is that breaking was born in the U.S., and thus, when they're going to go and represent at the Olympics for the first time, of course, there's hopes that they can reach the top of the podium. In addition to that, it's very important that it goes well in Paris 2024, because if Paris doesn't go well, then breaking will not be invited to come to Los Angeles in 2028. And that's the biggest goal for the global breaking community. So 2024 Paris for breaking is bigger than just winning the Olympics. It's getting a ticket that allows breaking to be represented at the Olympics, which is the biggest stage of sports performance in the world, to be something that continues. In addition to that, as we are in this global conflict, the politics of the Olympics is one of neutrality. And how do you go there in peace when we are in a state of conflict? That's another thing that is very important to keep in mind here, that is also felt on this journey to bringing an art like breaking to the Olympics. And the meta side of it, the underlying kind of value of breaking also lies in conflict, so to speak, in competition, where they go to battle, and through this battle, they create contrast to see who will be the best. And the beauty of it is that this battle of breaking is nonviolent. And I think that's really the message that is trying to be instilled in this process of integrating an artistic feat like breaking into a competitive feat like sports performance, especially seen at the highest level. So it's a very interesting time, and I hear you, Jay Sol, so loud and so clear, and I'm with you, and I'm excited to share soon what I've been working on within the community and who I'm supporting and how. And good stuff is coming. I just know that Paris is going to be more than just an Olympic event. It's going to be something that is going to resonate around the world beyond the sport performance itself. So I can't wait to see what happens there, and I can't wait to be a part of it in some way. So thank you for sharing, and I hear your excitement. Anybody else feeling something that they would like to share, and a practice that they have that is either helping them find some anchoring, some grounding, or like Madalena was saying, maybe all of a sudden feeling detached from it because of what is happening around the world? Feel free to unmute yourself.
I don't know if you can hear me clearly. I'm in a coffee shop, but if you can, I'll start. If not, there.
Loud and clear.
Cool. Yeah, in terms of anchoring and practice, one of my practices is coaching. So not quite movement, but your teaching, your coaching, your learning is ongoing. A couple of things going on right now. We have the CrossFit Open, the CrossFit gym. So that's keeping you super busy. And I'm building an Olympic lifting program, 2 classes a week. And again, that's like regular 2 sessions a week. You're building, you're growing, and you have that, like that routine, and I feel like that's my anchor. And going back to like the uncertainty, if you look at the start of the year, and I think it comes back a little bit to location, and the pandemic and COVID, BC or Vancouver, Canada, things quite strict. So it was very up and down. And it has a massive effect on athletes, your practice, because you don't feel as engaged or energized. But you keep going. Now it feels like we're getting out of that, which is amazing. And then in terms of what's going on in the rest of the world, you're aware, but where we are in Canada, I'm very detached. So you really couldn't relate to what's going on, which I shouldn't feel bad for that, but it's very hard to comprehend what's going on. So you're not affected. You are in a good place. Yes, we should be like mindful of that, but the location and being anchored in like where I am right now, it feels good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. James, thank you for sharing. And coaching is a practice. It's the practice of communication. It's a practice of connecting. It's the practice of developing something that goes beyond yourself. It's definitely a practice because it's a focus. So I hope everybody can hear that, because a practice can be anything that we choose to do deliberately. And I think this is where everything can start to crystallize, and I think is going to be very important for our conversation today, is that practice is something that you do deliberately. Action is something that you do reflexively. Now, there is overlap, of course, between that which we do deliberately and reflexively, and that's usually where we want to be. And why is this? Well, the reason we want to do this is because when we do something deliberately, it can take a lot of energy that we can't really get back unless we know how to recoup it within our practice itself. And then that which we do reflexively is that which we do automatically. It's that which it doesn't require thinking. It's that which is a habit. It's kind of programmed into us. And then there's this in between, which is the deliberate and the reflexive overlapping. And this is simply becoming aware of how we're acting, whether we're choosing to do it or it's coming out reflexively or habitually. And I bring this up because right now, as we're having this conversation, what we're really doing is we're just putting focus on that which we are thinking and feeling and experiencing, and thus becoming deliberate. But we're not necessarily practicing until we start to focus on the changes that we want to make. And as the world feels like it's imploding at the moment, we're coming out of this pandemic into a global conflict. As things are kind of imploding, depending on where you are in the world, if you're on the edges, you don't maybe feel it as much, but if you're closer to the action, you start to almost feel the slope of that funnel. So you feel like you're starting to slip into this dark place, this place of hopelessness, this place of despair, and where everything that you hear sounds like it doesn't have a positive outcome. And it's in that slope, in that moment where you start to slip, where my encouragement is that you become even more deliberate on that what you're doing. And what do I mean by this? Well, if you are entering into this slope where you're starting to slip into a place of darkness, into a place of confusion, that you double down, triple down on your practice. If you dance and dancing is what you do to ground yourself and you're starting to slip, triple down on dancing, dance more. If you journal, journal more. If you coach, coach more. And build all that you believe is of value. And the reason I'm saying this is because right now, as things are changing, there needs to be an infrastructure that whatever collapses can collapse onto. Your practice is the infrastructure on what we are going to implode on, collapse on. And that's going to support whatever is built next. This can be seen at a micro level for our own lives. It's kind of like the saying, the quote, when things seem to be falling apart, maybe they're just falling into place. This may apply here. Something that I talked about in the beginning of the pandemic was that I believe that we were going through an upgrade. And frankly, as we've gone through the pandemic, I feel like we've gone through a downgrade. And I realized that I was mistaken on my perception of where the downgrade happened. And I was focusing on, one, politicians in our government, two, on the media and how information is communicated to us, and three, on the emotional empathy that has been built or been created or expressed or shared around what has happened. And what do I mean by this? Well, when we talk about empathy, empathy is our ability to understand other people's feelings and to experience what they're experiencing in a way where we can emotionally be connected to it. Now, there are three different types of empathy that we need to make sure that we highlight here and we remember, especially if you've taken the interface course, which is you have the emotional empathy, which is the one I was just talking about a second ago. The emotional empathy is like the empathy that you feel when you're watching a movie. You're watching a movie and the character in the movie is going through some hardships, and you feel what that character is going through. Thus, you can cry, you can be scared, you can laugh, you can be excited. You experience emotionally exactly what the character in the movie is going through. That's emotional empathy. It's when you succumb to somebody else's feelings, to somebody else's emotional state. That's something that we've felt in this pandemic. Then you have the cognitive empathy. And what is cognitive empathy? Cognitive empathy is the empathy that is only experienced in your head rationally. You are basically projecting a story on that which you're perceiving. This is something that supposedly a news anchor is doing, a journalist is doing. They're trying to be empathetic, but cognitive. They're trying not to connect emotionally too much because they're just there to deliver the news. But if you've paid attention to the media, most of it has been on the emotional empathy side of things, and thus maybe leaned on a little bit more fear, maybe leaned on that which gets people to tune in a little bit more and gets people's attention and maybe confuses them. But the third level of empathy is the empathy that is known as compassionate empathy. And what is compassionate empathy? Compassionate empathy is being able to feel, embody that feeling that you're experiencing in contrast to somebody else or to an event or a group of people, but without succumbing to it. Terrible things have been happening in the Middle East, Syria, Afghanistan. The U.S. has done terrible things. Terrible things have happened in China. Terrible things are happening in Ukraine right now. Terrible things are happening all the time. And this is not to devalue what is happening in Ukraine specifically right now, because we all know that there's something slightly different here, because it could tilt over. It could be the tipping point to something bigger. And this can easily get us to a place of either shutting down and being like, okay, I'm just going to be cognitive about it. Yeah, wars happen all the time. It's out of my control. I'm not the one fighting the war. Get out of the way. Let me just focus on my work. Or it could be, I'm glued to the TV wondering what's the next move? When is the nuclear bomb going to drop? Is it happening in my country first? And where in the country should I be preparing for that? What is happening? And then panicking. But then you have the compassionate empathy. And what is the compassionate empathy? This is the one where you can feel what is happening. So I've cried many times over the last week because every time I'm with my grandson and I am there with him and I think about what's happening in Ukraine, I have this visceral feeling that comes up, and it makes me cry without even knowing why I'm crying until I, in retrospect, think about it. The moment I feel those tears coming, instead of allowing myself to just become that emotional state, I see it as what is in this moment, what is the foundation of our global state in this moment emotionally, and I try to position myself in respect to that emotional state that we're in, that global state that we're in. And I think to myself, how do I take full responsibility of this moment? Well, I have to start by taking care of that which is in my immediate circle. I need to take care of my grandson. I need to take care of my daughter. I need to take care of my wife. I need to take care of myself. I need to do all the things that keep me resourced. Otherwise, what ends up happening is that I get depleted. And this is a practice in itself, becoming compassionate without allowing what is happening to be put on a back burner or put somewhere else where I can't see it, basically sweeping it under the rug. And this is very difficult to do. This is very challenging to do. And everybody's going to have an opinion on how it's supposed to be done. But that opinion is simply a projection. And here I am, knowing nothing, because I know nothing, simply sharing this because I believe that we, each individual, are the solution. And we must start by working on that which we want to work on, that which we care about, that which brings value to our immediate circle. And this is what we call acting local. When you act local, you can affect global. And this can happen in many different ways, but it's the beginning. It's simply the beginning. So if you're building a weightlifting program, keep building the weightlifting program. If you're trying to create a state-of-the-art training system for braking, keep building the state-of-the-art training system. If you're working on forward rolls and backward rolls in your gymnastics practice, keep doing forward rolls and backward rolls, cartwheel around. If you journal, journal. If you dance, dance. If you train, train. Do whatever it is that you have to do, because it's there where you're going to find your ability to be connected, but not attached. And it's there where you can truly be of service when your time comes. A lot of people want to help, but a lot of times the help that they have to offer is actually not needed. It becomes more noise. It becomes more baggage. And this is very difficult to see and very difficult to navigate, but I think is important that we acknowledge it. I don't know where else to take that, but if anybody has anything that's coming up for them and they would like to share, feel free. I feel like I can't connect my words today. I can't connect my thoughts very well. I've been a little scatterbrained, and maybe it's because I haven't slept that well or whatever. or I'm leaning towards the emotional empathy and I can't get out of it. I'm here trying to preach compassionate empathy and I can't do it. So if anybody has anything that's coming up for them and they would like to share, feel free if this resonates with you and what you're thinking.
Just let me say something. I think, well, we all have our personal vision of everything that happens, and I must say that what you just said is so clear and powerful. So I don't think it's scattered or it's just, well, it resonates with me a lot, and it, in fact, I think it's just helped me put some of my emotions in their place, or the way I feel about this, all this, what that is happening, to like put it in more organized, you know. So I think it was really a good thing.
Thank you, Madeline. I appreciate it. Well, what you just said, you know what you just said to me? My ego took it as, great, I can be scatterbrained and still be clear. But my true self heard loud and clear the word trust. And I think trust is what we need to start building here. I personally don't trust the media. I don't trust our government. I've started to distrust a lot of people who are presenting themselves as having the solution, to the point where I even distrust myself. I don't trust that I am able to be who I need to be in this world to be a meaningful contributor sometimes. And this word trust is at the core of practice. And let me see if I can articulate this in a way that resonates with all of you right now. When I think about practice, I think about building not only a body of work or a skill set, but I'm thinking about becoming competitive. And when I say competitive, I'm really talking about becoming competent. And competent is being able to do something well. The reason this term competence can get a little muddy is because it tends to be related to one-upping each other. The one-upmanship works when you are in a trustworthy environment. But when you're in an environment where you do not trust those who are in that environment, the one-upmanship doesn't lead to self-development, to a greater expression of our skill set. I got very distracted because Maya just brought her beautiful puppy into the picture, and it's very cute. Oh boy. You got us all fucked up now. All right, sorry, swearing here. Okay, so competence. So in practice, what we're trying to develop is growth with the intention of being more inclusive, being more connected. This is something that I got to experience in gymnastics. Gymnastics was an individual sport, but it required to be practiced in a group setting, because it was in the group setting where we could compete with one another in order to get the best out of one another. It's kind of like these conversations. Right now, we're having a friendly dialogue. But if we were to have a debate, what we would be doing is practicing determining whether our ideas, our thinking, are truly solid, are truly trustworthy, are truly competent. So in practice, what are we looking for? We're looking for trust, and we're looking for competence within trust. The second thing about trust is that trust is consistent. You kind of know what to expect with trust. You know that there's a pattern. Yes, sometimes there are surprises, but when those surprises come, there's a fallback behind that surprise that is trustworthy, that is consistent. It's kind of like in a relationship to anything. If you change your mind, that may come out of left field, but if you can communicate where that came from, and communication is at the foundation of that which makes you competent or trustworthy within that relationship, then you're always in a safe place. You're always defaulting to something that is trustworthy. You guys see how there is the known, and then the little unknown, the little uncertainty is that which we can explore safely. This is kind of like cautious risk-taking. That's what you do in practice. You're exaggerating a reality in order to implement some new skills, some new programming, some new conditioning that is going to serve as a base. So competence. When I think about trust, and I'm thinking about it here in relationship to practice, I'm also thinking about values and principles. In other words, integrity. You trust somebody or something when it stands for something that you recognize. What is recognizing? It's recognizing, re-knowing. It's something that you know to be true. And in this moment, it's important to ask ourselves, what is true in regards to my practices, whether it's journaling, dancing, gymnastics, speaking, coaching? What is true? I've said this before. A lot of times I think about myself and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to show up here. I don't want to talk about this shit because it's uncomfortable. But then there's another side of me that says, you have to, This is who you are. So show up and just do the work. There's a sense of integrity. And I want you to find that within you, because that which is integral within you, that which is fundamental, that which is your truth, so to speak, is that which you will be able to see in others. In fact, it's that you're going to be seeking in others. So what is your truth within your practice? It can be as simple as self-expression. It can be as simple as exploring what your body is capable in order to have the best vehicle to allow you to live the longest life. Last night or yesterday afternoon, we were in the park, and my grandson, I know I talk about my grandson a lot. I'm just in love, so I can't help myself. But my grandson, who's my greatest teacher, we were in the park, and he had done the smaller slides. Now he's done the slides on his own. He's 13 months old. And then I look at this big slide. I'm like, we're going on the big slide, one of the bigger slides. And I was looking, how do you get up on the big slide? And I realized there was a cargo net. And I'm like, oh, shit, I have to carry my grandson up this cargo net. And for a second, I wondered, will I be able to carry this very valuable part of me up to this thing so he can experience something exciting? And yes, indeed, I could climb up that cargo net holding on to him. But then at the very end, there was this big step I had to take. And I had to do a very deep step up, holding this little dude on my shoulder as he's wiggling around. And for a second there, I struggled. And I said, oh shit, here there is a weakness. I must work this immediately. And I could not stop thinking about how I would change my practice, change my training to make sure that the next time I went up that cargo net, I would be able to take that step without even thinking. And why was that important? It was important because the moment I thought about my weakness, it took away from my experience of being with my grandson. That's where it gets fucked up. What we are experiencing right now in the world is taking away from that which is our strength and from being in the moment that we have right now. This is why the Stoics said you have to meditate on your mortality. And the reason is because it could end any moment. And if it ends in any moment, the question is, did we enjoy the moment that we actually had previous to that moment of ending? If it's no, then that is a missed opportunity. And I think that's what we're here to do. So what is our practice going to be? Our practice is one of developing trust, competence, integrity, consistency, and ultimately compassion, being able to connect, be inclusive. Being inclusive doesn't mean that there shouldn't be differences. Yes, variety is key. We've talked about variety so many times. We've said this in ecology, the most fruitful, the most powerful communities are the ones that are diverse. Diversity in thinking, diversity in being brings you strength. Strength collectively. But you yourself, you don't have to be that diverse. You can be pretty specific. You can focus on one thing. You can focus on your gymnastics. You can focus on your coaching. You can focus on your journaling. You can focus on your dancing. It doesn't take away from the bigger picture. And I think this is the message that I'm sharing with you, but I'm also sharing it with myself. I'm saying, Carl, go do the thing that you do the best, because it's there where you're going to be the most impactful. And what will you be doing there? You will be taking full responsibility of your life, the lives of the people that you contribute to. And thus you will have a foundation to always fall back on. And when the time comes that your responsibilities have to change, you will be ready for that. It's kind of like when you talk about parenting. You're never ready to become a parent. You just become a parent. When you're preparing for a competition of some sort, yes, you do everything in your power, but how prepared are you truly? Are you fully prepared? Well, you won't know until you do it. So we might as well just do. And when we notice that there's a weakness, that there's a hole, that there's a crack, rather than succumbing to that crack, let's fill it with something. It's like the Japanese art of kintsugi, where you take a broken pot and then you glue it together with gold. And the rebuilt pot or vase, vase, whatever you want to call it, with gold actually becomes more beautiful than the original. We're not breaking, we're building. The question is, what are you building? And are you taking full ownership of it? Are you celebrating it? If this rings true or false with you, I would love to hear your reflection. You can leave it in the chat. Sarah commented earlier that her internet is really bad, so she's participating by listening, and I appreciate that very much. iPad 2, I think. iPad 2, is that you, James? Yeah, I think that's you, James. Yep. And yeah, I know Kyle is also just listening in. I'm realizing right now that this is maybe the beauty of Coffee Club, is that you can say whatever you want. We can do whatever we want. We can be whoever we want. That's powerful. Is there anybody here who's hiding a little bit? Not in this moment, just in general. Are you hiding a little bit? Because I think I'm hiding a little bit in life. I'm not fully showing everything. Are you hiding? What are you hiding from?
Can
I'll
I
share.
say,
Go ahead, Maya, please.
I totally agree with you that I know that there are parts of me that I hide because it's scary showing up as your authentic self 100%. You know, because people know us, like the people in the coffee club know me in a certain situation, but they don't know, you know, part of my past trauma. And so to show up 100% in any situation is scary as fuck. I mean, you've already sworn today, so
Yeah.
well, I can say that. And so, but it's even the fact that you and I can bring the awareness to saying that is a step in the right direction, is a step to us both being cognizant of how we're showing up in whatever situation it is. And maybe just even step to the edges in that moment of that conversation and just try to be more authentic, more, you know, not be playing small, stepping into our gifts. Because this whole conversation today has really resonated with me. And, you know, grounding ourselves in our practices, especially when there's so much turmoil in the world right now. And going back to that thing that helps us grow and helps us learn and challenges us, you know, is so powerful. Yeah, I always get stuff out of our coffee clubs, but today has really resonated with me.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you, Maya. Yeah, I hear courage is to have courage to show up. And it is scary to show all of you, because sometimes you know that the world, or at least those around you, don't seem to be able to handle it, or at least handle it the way that you in that moment need, right? You may not get the response that you were expecting or hoping for. And that's a problem, because that, for one, means that you don't trust yourself and you don't trust your environment. So how do we fix that? Or do we? Do we just let it be?
No, we just got to keep going to the edges.
Mm.
We have to keep having that conversation with ourselves and keep, going to the edge, and then trying a little bit more to be a little bit more authentic in this conversation with this person. And then it's building a muscle just like any other, resiliency and strength and authenticity is a muscle, just like, building your quads or building your biceps.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's having these kind of conversations and putting ourselves out there a little bit more every single time, and and not allowing our brains to make the assumptions that people will not still acknowledge us and love us and respect us for who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're truly being authentic and you're coming from a place, using courage, which core, the root of that word is from your heart,
Mm-hmm.
then it doesn't say anything about you being authentic. It says more about how the person is receiving you in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's
Very
good
powerful.
for you to be stepping into that.
Very powerful. Yeah. Thank you, Maya. I really appreciate that reflection. Yeah, it's like a muscle. You have to develop that skill set of learning how to show up and knowing who you're showing up in front of and for what. Because sometimes you're looking for a relief, and the relief that you're seeking is not maybe being released in the right place. Back to kids. It's like potty training. You want the kid to go potty in the toilet, not on the floor or in their panties or in their diaper or whatever. You want them to go in the toilet. So sometimes relieving ourselves, which is really liberating ourselves and just showing up fully as who we are, needs to be in the right container. And the question I want to leave you here with is the container already there, or do you have to build it, or is it both? And this is just an open-ended question, as I'm going to read what Sarah just wrote. Of course, hiding tons of stuff, I think. Hiding from people's incapacity not to hate, not to destroy, not to kill internally or externally, not to stop you. It's worse to hide than facing it. Is it? Yeah, that's a good question. Depends on the environment for me. This is a little bit what I was alluding to. So yes, I agree with you there, Sarah. I mean, knowing, and she says knowing in capital letters, which is like knowing, it's you're certain about this, trusting that which you're saying or telling yourself that I'm hiding makes me more powerful than not being aware of hiding. Yes, this is key. At least I am taking responsibility of the hiding. Yes, this is taking ownership of what state of being you're in. And this is funny because showing up is going to pull others up too. Yes, sometimes you have to show who you are. You have to lead by example. You can only model that which you want to see, and thus you have to express yourself. The scary part is that when you express yourself fully and all of a sudden you look around and you realize that the room is empty or not a lot of people are around you, you start to feel alone, and that can be a problem. And that's where I think this coffee club is important, because if anybody here ever feels alone, I hope everybody knows that you can reach out to one another. And as long as you ask for what you need specifically, you will receive. So just keep that in mind when you start to show up fully. If you start to feel alone or it starts to feel empty, know that there's always somebody there. It just may be that somebody you've never connected with before, you've never seen them in person before, you've never had the relationship that you think you should have in order to connect with them. Just know that they are here. If you're here listening to this or just attending anything like this, you're already that person. You're already that container. So just keep that in mind. I forget where I left off here. So even if you do it for yourself and others, hiders, we got to gradually show up to own the voice. Yeah, this is what you were saying. It's like a muscle you have to train, right, Maya? The own personality, the own thoughts, the own. So basically it's all about what is coming up for you. And it's not about projecting that which is coming out for you, but allowing yourself to see how you're projecting that which you're doing, and thus giving you the feedback that you need to make the small adjustments. And then we have iPad 2. That's James. I don't feel like I'm hiding, but I feel there's more to come and more to share. Yes. And I feel you answered this earlier about tripling down on your practice. That's wonderful to hear. I'm so glad that that's the case for you. Maybe that was just confirmation. And then also getting caught up in the pandemic, other work issues can knock focus, stop me from sharing. Yes, this is also a big one. Our environment, of course, influences us. We are a product of our environment. And that's important to note. Yeah. Anything else, my friends? Anything that you would like to share before we bring this to a wrap? Nice. Sarah's feeling lighter. Thank you. Maya says, thank you. Always get so much out of these. Fantastic. I'm so glad you do. Okay. Well, practice, practice, practice. And what are you going to practice? You're going to practice what you're already practicing and that which you care about. And even if it feels insignificant and that creeps into your mind, don't let that stop you. In other words, keep practicing, keep moving, keep doing, and realize that the value that you bring through your practice is going to serve as a pillar that will support the next foundation, that which is coming next. And like we've said many times, chaos is self-organizing. It's going to show us where to prioritize. And we're going to make a lot of mistakes. We're going to miss a lot of moments. And in missing these moments, rather than grieving the loss and getting caught in that grief, to allow them to serve as lessons. Lessons that are teaching us that there will be another opportunity. It may not seem or look like the same one, but it will be similar. Similar enough that you won't miss it, and that when you pursue it, work with it, learn it, integrate it, will be as fulfilling as the one that you did miss. It's kind of like the cycle or the circle or the wheel of karma. You come back until you learn the lesson. That's what karma is. Karma is you're going to keep getting the same lesson until you learn it. So instead of focusing on our karma, meaning that which we haven't learned, we need to focus on our dharma. The dharma is the path that you follow. Focus on your path, and the karma will be resolved. That is where the duality of practice lives, and we've kind of talked about it today. And it's up to you to bring meaning, bring significance, bring value to the story that you tell yourself about your practice. And if you can trust that, if you can trust yourself in being competent, compassionate, consistent, have integrity, that will be exactly what the world needs from you. And you may not believe that right now. I may not even believe it right now. But I'm saying it because my instinct tells me that it's the truth. So for whatever my instinct is worth, I'll leave it at that. Okay. As I deep swallow. Much love to everybody. Thinking about all of you, and I look forward to our next get together. Much love. Take care. Bye, everybody. Peace.